Fox News and the New York Post are leaning into overt racism to attack Kamala Harris, smearing her with the alt-right's new N-word substitute, DEI.
DEI got us Kamala Harris as a vice president.
Happy DEI Thursday, Kamala.
Some people say Harris would be the country's first DEI president. They're going to put Kamala up there, and they're going to do a DEI celebration.
Transcripts also show Fox News has complained about her laugh, literally hundreds of times.
Kamala Harris laughing again.
Why is Kamala Harris laughing?
We look at Kamala laughing, and that's the part we all focus on.
Typical laugh, that's what we get.
That's a weird thing for Fox News to criticize, given that this was their primetime star for almost a decade. It's a cynical ploy to distract from Harris's successes as a prosecutor, district attorney, state attorney general, U.S. senator, and vice president. 3 key facts about why Republicans might be scared of her. Number 1, Kamala Harris is an outspoken defender of reproductive freedom, maybe Republicans' biggest political vulnerability.
This is a fight for freedom. The fundamental freedom to make decisions about one's own body and not have their government tell them what they're supposed to do.
Trump's major policy accomplishment was overturning Roe v. Wade via his Supreme Court picks.
I got rid of Roe v. Wade.
That's something the majority of Americans did not want. And while Trump's now trying to hedge on his position ahead of the election, remember that as a 2016 candidate, he called for a national abortion ban.
You have to ban it.
As president, Trump pushed for a national abortion ban. And as a 2024 candidate, he picked a running mate who wants to ban abortion with no exceptions for rape or incest.
The idea that someone who survives a crime of violence to their body would not have the authority to make a decision about what happens to their body next, that's immoral.
Number 2, Kamala Harris is a defender of working Americans. When I interviewed her for Now This during her 2020 presidential bid, I asked what her top priority would be if elected. She laid out a plan for a tax credit similar to the expanded child tax credit that the Biden-Harris administration enacted in 2021.
For too long in our country, the policies have been written in a way that have favored the top 1% and the rich and not favored working families and middle-class families. And it is, I think, long overdue that we focus on lifting families up and giving them the support they deserve.
The expanded child tax credit cut child poverty by 30% until Republican senators plus Joe Manchin forced it to expire. Biden and Harris are fighting to restore it and are driving a range of other protections for workers and consumers, from expanded overtime rules to cracking down on junk fees to capping the price of insulin and other life-saving medications. Number 3, Kamala Harris is a former prosecutor, which is quite the contrast to the convicted criminal on the Republican ticket. It was Harris's prosecutorial-style cross-examinations that made her a star in the U.S. Senate, such as this exchange with Trump's Attorney General Bill Barr on why he decided to dismiss the Mueller report's conclusions that Trump committed at least 10 acts of potentially criminal obstruction without even reviewing Mueller's evidence.
If in any U.S. attorney's office around the country, the head of that office, when being asked to make a critical decision about, in this case, the person who holds the highest office in the land, and whether or not that person committed a crime, would you accept them recommending a charging decision to you if they had not reviewed the evidence?
Well, that's a question for Bob Mueller. He's the U.S. attorney. He's the one who presents the report.
But it was you who made the charging decision, sir. I think you've made it clear that you've not looked at the evidence. We can move on. I think you've made it clear, sir, that you've not looked at the evidence, and we can move on.
Republicans are desperate to create the impression that Harris is unpopular and unqualified, even though she's been winning elections on her record for 20 years. San Francisco voters elected Harris to be their district attorney twice. Then the rest of California elected her as state attorney general twice. Then they elected her to be their senator. If she had been bad at her job, millions of California voters would not have kept voting for her over and over again. Kamala Harris's detractors are forced to attack her race and her laugh because attacks on her record would not hold up.